Pablo Picasso is probably one of the most famous people of our time. No one else has dominated the Facebook mom's inspirational quotes market like this man has. I mean, just look at the amount of quotes this man has dropped. Wow, I am so inspired right now. Hello? Yeah, what? Oh, he was also a painter? Really? Huh. Alright, so yeah. Picasso was apparently a famous painter who was born in 1881 and died in 1973. His most famous painting is arguably the one titled Guernica, which is an anti-war piece inspired by the bombing of the town Guernica in 1937. To this day, Guernica is still considered to be one of the most important anti-war pieces in art history. Another thing I also found out about Picasso is that he was quite violent towards women. In a book by Picasso's granddaughter, Marina Picasso, she discussed his relationship with women by stating that he, quote, submitted them to his animal sexuality, tamed them, bewitched them, ingested them, and crushed them onto his canvas. Victoria Combalia, who wrote a biography on the artist Dora Maar, also stated that there is evidence that at least once Picasso very likely punched Maar on her eye, and that he could be seen as abusive to women in general. I wonder why the inspirational quotes people never mention this stuff. Anyways, on a topic of quotes, one of the Picasso quotes I think is funny is this one. Good artists copy, great artists steal. Ignoring the fact that this quote was stolen, I do think it's sort of funny how a lot of great artists do in fact steal. Stealing the act of being abusive to people. For example, I'm sure you've seen all the discussions about how John Lennon was an abusive person. You've also probably seen online memes pointing out how this is all very interesting, considering Lennon did write the song.
Imagine there's no heaven.
Kill John Lennon!
The point I'm trying to make isn't to say that your favorite artist is a terrible person. What I'm trying to say is that great artists are capable of bad actions. Ultimately, this raises the age-old question, can you separate art from the artist? Is an artist inseparable from their art, or can one just simply remove them from each other? To be honest, I've always found it confusing why this question has always been such a big debate. In my humble opinion, the answer is no, you can't separate art from the artist. A piece of art is connected to its artist. Without the artist, the piece of art wouldn't exist. And without the art, the artist wouldn't exist because they wouldn't be an artist. On top of that, I think that a piece of the artist's identity or ideology will always be present in their work. Every piece of art has some sort of meaning. Some would even say every piece of art is political. I saw this post on Twitter last week where this person posted a picture of the Meowscles, is that how you say it? Meowscles skin from Fortnite with the caption, "Tell me how this is political." Another user then quote retweeted saying, most calico cats are biologically female, except for a rare mutation. This either means that Meowscles is trans or he is representation for a sexual minority. I think that this is a good example of how you can always find meaning in art if you look hard enough. Did the designer of the Fortnite Meowscles skin intend for their art to have this kind of meaning? I don't know. But if it was intended, separating this art from the artist would ultimately discredit the artist. Lucky for us though, some artists do make it their mission to let everyone know that their art is a reflection of their ideology and beliefs. Some obvious examples are political cartoons or just political art in general, like some pieces by Banksy. This can also apply to J.K. Rowling and Harry Potter, like when she compared people who criticize her statements on feminism and trans people to the Death Eaters from Harry Potter. Is that a real quote? Hello? Is that a real quote? It is? That's crazy. What's next? You're gonna tell me that they're gonna make another Harry Potter? Wait, what? Oh god. Guys, when will we as a society come together and say enough is enough? No more British people. While we're on this topic, I feel like every artist can learn a lot from J.K. Rowling about what not to do if your piece of art becomes a giant franchise. I think that a perfect example of what every artist turned billionaire should do is George Lucas. I mean, the guy never talks about Star Wars now and stays off social media. Dudes just hang out in food courts, building museums, and also appearing in the background of random documentaries, or whatever this was.
But it's a molten salt process.
Anyways, what were we talking about? Oh, right, separating art from the artist. From what I've seen online, I feel like debates about separating art from the artist aren't actually about that. Instead, it seems like the real debate is about whether one should consume or even enjoy art that is made by terrible people. Oftentimes, the act of consuming art will support the artist by giving them fame and money. I feel like the financial aspect of art consumption is the thing that's a big deal to a lot of people. So let's talk about it. To start, there are two kinds of artists. Dead ones and, not dead ones.
Hey, Dad, where does John Lennon live?
John Lennon's dead, Butters.
Ah, dang it.
With dead artists, you know for sure that they're not going to financially benefit from you consuming their art because they're, dead. Typically, with dead artists, that money will go to the current owners of the art. Sometimes that's their estate/foundations, sometimes that's museums, sometimes it's just random rich people, whatever. For example, Keith Haring was an artist who died in 1990, and you will probably recognize his art since the Keith Haring Foundation has basically collabed with every clothing company imaginable. By purchasing one of these shirts, you are financially supporting the clothing companies and the brand that the Keith Haring Foundation has built. Whether or not this is something you want to do is up to you to make an informed decision on. Anyways, what about art made by artists that are alive? Well, unlike dead artists that are alive will oftentimes directly profit from you consuming their art, like how music artists will receive money from you streaming their music. But I guess that doesn't really mean much anyways. Things obviously work a little different in other mediums and industries though. For example, in mainstream films, the artists such as the cast and crew are already being paid a salary, and the profit generated from you consuming the art is going to the studios/IP owners. This is certainly a lot to think about when you're trying to decide whether or not you want to directly support an artist. Man, if only there was a way to consume art without having to give money to anyone. If only there was a way. Well, too bad no such thing exists. Let's move on. The more complicated part about supporting artists seems to be the idea of fame. By consuming art, whether in a legal or illegal manner, you are engaging in a conversation about the artists. You are giving them fame, and thus you are giving them power. And we don't want to give power to bad people. So should we remove and ignore the works of art made by bad people? There are really two ways to look at this issue. On one hand, I don't think it's right to completely ignore an artist's work. By ignoring their contributions to the art world, you are ignoring history, and I don't think I need to explain why that's a bad thing. On the other hand, if you look at this issue from the victim's perspective, having to constantly see the work of someone who has harmed you or your community is terrible. We can't and we shouldn't just place someone on a pedestal just because their art is good. In my opinion, the only way to balance the two sides of this issue is to always be in pursuit of the truth. This starts with highlighting the stories and perspectives of the people who have been harmed by the artists. If the artist is alive, it's important to hold them accountable for their actions. If the artist is dead, it's important to pressure the owners of the art to tell the story of the artist that accurately reflects the truth. This leaves us with one final issue. Is it wrong to enjoy the works of bad people? And my answer to this question is, I don't know. Listen, it's not my job to tell you whether you should feel good or bad about listening to Kanye West or J.K. Rowling. I just want to discuss how I personally view art, and also highlight the importance of thinking about our consumption of art and how it affects others. At the end of the day, we're all humans with our own morals and opinions. And what you want to do is up to you. As long as you're trying to educate and inform yourself, you're doing something right. Anyways, this video has gone on a lot longer than I wanted it to, so I guess I should abruptly end it on that optimistic note. In conclusion, if there's one thing you're going to take away from this video, it should be that British people need to stop. It's too much. It's too much. I'm sorry. I can't do it anymore.